Whew. Hey everyone, we're back with another reaction regarding a certain character from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, yeah, but the funny thing is that we kind of did this back in August, but we got so busy that Iron kind of forgot to upload it. And by the time I told him to do it, something happened to the file.
It
And
corrupted.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the video. I remember saving it, but it just disappeared.
Corrupted, I guess. Anyways, so General CJG here.
and the Shadow King, King Nanzu, he who begins and ends all things in darkness, and owner of the legendary X Blade, the sword equivalent of the Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh yes.
That is, well, let's see you try and use it in this video that we're gonna react to.
Yes, it's called A Two Perfect Female Character. You can all pretty much guess
Oh,
who we're talking about.
oh, May Ray Sue.
And
Well,
now that the sequel trilogy, is complete, we have a better perspective on this.
Yeah, we
oh
can bring it.
yes.
Yeah, that's a lift silver lining. We can bring in new information.
Yep, indeed. So, shall we get on with this? Oh, and not only that, but Iron also is versed in Star Trek to some extent, so that could also.
Oh yeah, because it
There's a
mentions the origin of the term.
Yep. So, without further ado, let's begin.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, that's some song. I don't know why the color swapping, but okay.
Shortly after The Force Awakens came out in mid-December 2015, the internet community saw a lot, and I mean a lot, of Rey as a Mary Sue content.
Gee,
Google
can't
searches
imagine
for
why.
Rey as Mary
Yeah.
Sue, as well as What is Mary Sue, reached peak trend in late December. Arguments ensued on Reddit and Tumblr, comment threads on articles and YouTube videos turned into gladiatorial battles. Men and women, fans and haters were on each side of the fight. But a lot of them on both sides were wrong. And since The Last Jedi came out in theaters, the trends upticked again. We're seeing this argument play out all over the internet. But a lot of people are using the term differently than the person they are engaging with, and some of these discussions culminate in participants having to define what it is they actually mean when they say Mary Sue. A lot of people use it and take it as an insult, and most of the time it is, according to most people's definition of the term. So what does it really mean when you use this archetype to describe a character? Well, it's complicated because you have to first think about Mary Sue in context. So let's get to it.
You got a lot to learn.
If you think Rey is a Mary Sue, you may be using an incorrect definition.
But she is.
And no, I'm not talking about the Wikipedia, Urban Dictionary entries on the subject. I'm talking about the original Mary Sue and the intention behind the creator of the Mary Sue archetype.
Oh,
A
this
Mary
sounds
Sue is not a
rich.
female character that never fails. A Mary Sue is also not a purely derogatory archetype, although most people do seem to use it this way. Let's take a quick review of what Rey's character is intended to be. In the Star Wars saga, our main characters will go on a classic Joseph Campbell hero's journey. This journey can be organized into 3 parts, which are within each film, within each trilogy, and within the entire saga. Rey's hero's journey is quite similar to Luke's within their introductory films alone.
Oh god.
They both live in the ordinary world. They receive a call to adventure. They both initially refuse the call. They meet mentors who are both killed by the end of the film. They're tested. They journey into a dark place. They overcome the bad guys and receive a reward. They accept their newfound abilities and are thus symbolically resurrected. And while Luke does not return with the elixir, Rey does. So Rey fits the archetype for a
I think we
typical
should
hero
pause here
with
before we get too
Let's do it.
far.
Okay. Okay, pause. So, okay, first of all, comparing Rey's journey with Luke's is not going to help. It's only going to bring up the argument that the Force Awakens is basically an episode 4 2.0.
Exactly, I was
Yeah.
going to bring that up.
And especially comparing Rey's journey to Luke is going to be honestly asinine because Luke actually struggled during his journey. to becoming a great Jedi.
Exactly,
Wow.
Whereas
and
Rey hasn't.
it took him a couple years to reach where he was.
Yep, 3 to be fair. No, 4.
Yeah, it was
actually.
4 years.
Yeah, and you could arguably say he was at best at Padawan level, like high Padawan low Jedi Knight level.
Yeah, in the middle of Padawan and Jedi Knight. But Rey, 1 year, and with that, she managed to destroy the most powerful save of them all in Disney Star Wars.
Yep, just by deflecting the lightning back.
Yep.
And everybody's making a meme that if only Mace Windu had a second lightsaber, we could have had it avoid the original trilogy.
I gotta see that.
Oh God, oh Jesus Christ. Uh, well, there is that. Now, as for the Mary Sue term, she's gonna bring it later. So I think we should save that.
Yeah, we'll
argument for
save
later.
it.
Okay, so shall we continue?
I'm at 247.
249.
Okay. Iron.
3, 2, 1, go.
In Campbell's framework. How about the Mary Sue archetype? Mary Sue was a character who appeared in a short fan fiction within a 1973 Star Trek fanzine. Fanzines were basically like Tumblr in print and included fan fiction stories, art, news, columns written by the creators, and fan letters. The story, A Trekkie's Tale, was very short. It was meant to be a parody of a repeated archetype Paula Smith was noticing in other Star Trek fan fiction. Mary Sue boards the Enterprise. All male leads fall in love with Mary Sue. Mary Sue saves the day with her hairpin. She reveals to Spock that she is half Vulcan. All of the male leads get sick, but Mary Sue pilots the Enterprise while they are sick. She wins a bunch of awards. Mary Sue then gets sick herself and dies. Everyone mourns Mary Sue because she was just too perfect for this
I
world.
think I tended to make a weasel
According to
joke
Joan
on
Marie
that.
Verba's 1996 publication, Boldly Writing, the rules for a Mary Sue are as follows. Number 1,
Let's see.
a young or youngest officer in Starfleet. Fun fact, at some point in the discussions with George Lucas, 2 of the main characters were teenagers, but when writing on episode 7 began, Lucasfilm decided instead to make Rey the same age as Luke and Leia in the original film, which is 19. I don't think Rey fits this stereotype. She is young, yes, but she's not unusually young for a Star Wars story. There's a blurb in the Last Jedi Visual Dictionary that notes that the Empire uses so-called sub-adults for many jobs at their bases, mainly for the kids that weren't strong or able enough to become stormtroopers. So if anything, the choice to age her up and not have her be, let's say, 16, goes in the opposite direction of a Mary Sue archetype.
Pause, guys, because then.
You can be a Mary Sue or Gary Stu no matter what age you are.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, look at Alice from the Resident Alice movie. She's an adult, and yet she's the biggest Mary Sue in all of fiction, honestly.
Oh, your microphone's a little scratchy. It's kind of hard to hear.
Yeah, your voice a little lowered, King.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, I was saying you could be. I mean, look at Alice from the live-action
Resident Evil.
quote-unquote Resident Evil movies or Resident Alice movies, to be more accurate. I mean, she's an adult and she's a Mary Sue.
Yep.
Mhm.
That is
Is there another example?
another example. Well, some can make the argument that Dante from Devil May Cry could be one, but
I wouldn't go that far because he actually loses from time to time, and he has character flaws. Though,
Mike is low again.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far because Dante loses from time to time, and he has character flaws. People say Bella. Bella's a Mary Sue.
Bella.
Bella from what?
Twilight.
Oh,
I've heard that before, yeah.
oh shit. I haven't touched that abomination.
I stay away from it.
Though I did touch the fan fiction that is spawned from 50 Shades of Shit.
Yeah.
Oh god. Anyway, so Bella from Twilight. Explain, King.
I mean, she's like when the book starts, she's like this new student.
New student. What?
I'm sorry, my mom was talking. Okay, so like this new student, and she, she's a new student. Everybody loves her. and then she meets Edward the vampire, and I think like for some reason he can't read her mind, and that kind of intrigues him, and and their romance is so forced. But I don't really want to talk about it. But yeah, she's kind of a Mary Sue, and she just becomes a bigger one when she becomes a vampire.
Well, that's something.
Wow.
The one I can fully say that is confirmed to be a Mary Sue, but I'm gonna leave it for later because even the movie itself confirmed it. No, actually, I'm gonna say it right now. Mary Poppins from the OG Mary Poppins movie. I think that's pretty much a Mary Sue. Even the movie says that she's a perfect character.
But it's in a good way because she's supposed to be like an example for the children.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. That
So
was
in this
actually
case, it works.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least she's likable.
Yeah, that too. So,
Okay,
shall we get
so
to the next reason?
yeah.
Okay,
Oh, I didn't go yet.
let's go.
I'm at 431, so 3,
Okay,
2,
Alan.
1, go.
Number 2, adored by everyone on the ship, especially Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. So she must be adored by all of our main male leads. This actually does sort of happen with Rey, but you can't really scream Mary Sue for this one alone. Finn's
Oh,
"you
come
got a
on.
cute boyfriend" comment seems to just be for laughs,
Got a boyfriend.
Ah.
None of your business, that's why.
and her unresponsiveness emphasizes that. By now, it seems clear that Rey and Finn are simply friends. Also, Han doesn't initially like Rey when he meets her, and of course I mean platonically. She has to prove herself to him in order to gain his respect and mentorship. I wouldn't say that he adored her immediately. Kylo Ren, on the other hand, is taken with Rey, but for reasons I won't get into.
Oh,
Rey and
boy.
Ben are sort of the whole point of this trilogy, so their connection inevitably has to begin as soon as they meet. Number 3.
Pause. Okay, to that, I'm gonna say one thing. Episode 9! Episode 9! Episode 9 has Finn and Poe loving the shit out of her. Even
Yes, you can't deny that.
and
of course we got
Raylo!
fucking Raylo.
Yep, Raylo is canon, so yeah.
So yeah, she sounds very much like a Mary Sue to me.
Yep.
And not to mention she's liked by. I mean, she managed to gain the respect and admiration of people rather quickly. Like Han, you can argue Han didn't like her at first because he barely knew her, but after she fixed the compressor, that easily impressed him to the point where he wanted to give her a job. I think that's a little too rushed. You barely know this character for like 30 minutes. By the time you
Exactly.
ask-
Yeah, unlike with the original trilogy where Han didn't really trust too much, well, not trust, but more like he didn't like too much the other characters.
Yeah, it took
aside
till
from
the end of the film for him to for like Luke to
Yep,
grow on him.
yep. So
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah,
changed with Rey.
and him and Leia were at each other until like episode 5.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I guess it's another one that is forced. So anything else to say before we go to extraordinary abilities? This is gonna be fun.
I can already see what she's going to use. She's probably going to say that that practically everybody has the Force.
Let's get to it.
All right, I'm at 519, so 3, 2, 1, go.
Extraordinary abilities. This is where we get into weird territory, and the Force is to blame, because it's basically magic. Rey is incredibly powerful.
No,
with
it's
the Force,
not.
And after seeing The Last Jedi, we know why. She was created by the Force itself, sort of like Anakin. The title of the first film hints at this. The Force
not
awakens in
It didn't hint
Rey.
at anything.
During the interrogation scene, Rey and Ben see into each other's minds, and it is confirmed in The Last Jedi novel that this allowed Rey to sort of catch up with him in Force abilities. So while she is very
kind of
powerful,
media.
Stupid.
it's kind of the point of her whole story and her arc. Compare this with a Mary Sue who is placed in a world not with magic, but one of science fiction, who oftentimes does have impossible and even mystical abilities in a story where that does not belong. Number 4.
Pause.
Oh.
Okay, who wants to tackle this one? This is gonna be fun.
Okay, first, Rey was born from the Force. Where did you get that from?
Yeah, I never
Yeah,
got
not
that
even
from
the line.
anything.
No source has ever mentioned that. Every single one has pointed that Rey was born from some specific parents.
And as
Not-
you know, the Rise of Skywalker revealed that she is the biological granddaughter of Palpatine.
Yeah, Palpatine's granddaughter. Who decided to have sex with Palpatine? God only knows.
There's that. And even if we go with just The Last Jedi, The Last Jedi says that Rey's parents were junk dealers. It was two, a mom and a dad, so not the Force. Force was not the dad, which was the case of Anakin.
Unless you're trying to like pull like a Jesus thing where like her who should be her biological father didn't actually impregnate the mother, and just it was just an immaculate conception. But I doubt that happened.
Yep, that one. Now, next in terms of extraordinary abilities.
All right, 607, 3.
No, Iron. We're not done yet. We're
Oh,
talking about
sorry. I
We're
thought
still
you
talking about
meant.
the powers.
Alright.
Yeah. Okay. So, the Mary Sue character in Star Trek has so much mystical powers. Okay. You want to do the honors, King or Iron, in what powers Rey has?
Okay, for starters, Rey was able to learn abilities ridiculously quickly.
Yes,
she was
that
able
should have,
to-
like the mind trick, which should have taken, like,
Yeah.
even
took
a Padawan,
lot to-
a lot of effort to learn and time as well.
I mean, we were willing to give that a pass. That just happened like one time, and she only did that out of like a desperation for her life. But she does it again, and even when her mind is not focused, which the Jedi mind trick requires your mind to be focused, and we see her doing force pulls, force push.
And she levitates hundreds of rocks that weigh probably over a ton. And she has only heard about the Force,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you
and
know, within a few days.
Yeah, according to some people, they think that the Last Jedi took like a few hours after the Force Awakens. So regardless, it's still a short amount of time.
And
it's
she
still
also didn't
ridiculous
strain or
short.
struggle. She just did it with no effort. There's no sweat, no strain.
Mhm.
I mean, even Anakin Skywalker, the freaking chosen one, didn't learn powers this quickly.
It took him even longer than Luke was.
It took him 10 years to reach,
Padawan.
at least skill level with many, like, Jedi Masters.
Yep.
I mean, granted, if you go like into like the time material that he was able to outperform his fellow younglings and Padawans to a certain degree, but it wasn't like this.
Yep.
Mhm.
Speaking of extraordinary abilities, don't forget that now, thanks to episode 9, Rey officially has a force healing ability that can heal even lightsaber wounds, like cuts and stabs.
And can even bring people back from the dead.
Oh, that too!
Yeah.
That's an actually extraordinary ability, one that we haven't even seen ever in the movies.
And she was able to Jarkai block Palpatine's Force lightning right back at him and killing him.
Yep.
Whereas
remind you that-
Mace Windu, a Jedi Master who's trained for decades, is unable to do that. Well, I mean, he did do it, but it didn't, like, completely destroy him.
And also, Rey only had 1 year of training, a little bit of Palpatine blood inside her, and a motivational speech from the Force Ghost in order to pull off that feat. So, that absolutely makes no freaking sense whatsoever, and it's a definition of being even overpowered, far more so than Starkiller ever was Palpatine, the Force Unleashed. Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, how is it that she comes off more overpowered than Grandmaster Luke, who condensed a black hole?
Because Luke had decades of training.
and Rey would just bullshit her way to perfection. So there's that.
Speaking of perfection, I think it's time we go to number 4.
Okay.
All right,
Extraordinary
607.
honors.
3,
Okay.
2, 1, go.
Wins extraordinary honors. Compared to Luke's ending in A New Hope, Rey gets no literal honor or reward by the end of The Force Awakens. By receiving the Falcon and
Excuse me?
being the one who journeys to go and get Luke, she does get a sort of figurative reward. But this is mainly because she is the one the lightsaber called to. She was chosen by the Force. Again, our magic system
How does
doesn't
the
mesh
lightsaber
well
call
with the
to
Mary Sue
you?
archetype because Mary Sue lives in a world without it. Number 5.
Pause. Pause. Quick pause.
Can you think of an example of a Mary Stu or Gary Stu that lives in a world with magic?
Well,
I mean, Twilight, technically, it has vampires and werewolves.
Mm-hmm. And I guess Mary Poppins could be one. But here's the thing: a stinking medal compared to getting the ticket to not only meeting Luke Skywalker but also being trained by him. I think that's better than any stinking medal would ever give you, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And again, how does a lightsaber call to you? It's just a technological weapon. I mean, granted, in SWTOR, Darth Barrows was able to locate his lightsaber, his old lightsaber that was buried on Hoth, but he had to use the Force. He had to actively use the Force to track it.
Mm-hmm. And Rey wasn't doing that.
Exactly.
The Lord was just straight up calling to her, which is the equivalent of how the wands from Harry Potter chose their masters and calls to them. Which I think that's where J.J. Abrams got his inspiration for this.
Yeah.
So there's that.
That makes sense.
Anyways, next, sometimes that's tragic or heroic death. She's mourned by everyone on the ship. Oh, okay. This is going to be an interesting one. Shall we get on with this one, Iron?
All right. I'm at 6:36, so 3, 2, 1, go.
Times dies a tragic or heroic death, after which she is mourned by everyone on the ship. Now, I don't think they're going to kill off Rey. I don't think anyone thinks they're going to kill off Rey.
Oh, that did not
It's a
age
Disney
well.
story, after all. However, at the end of the hero's journey, there is usually some sort of resurrection or rebirth at the end, which evolves the hero and truly marks them as a myth or legend. I'm just, covering my butt in case Rey literally or figuratively dies in 9 and is then reborn. This sort of death is earned and essential to the hero's journey. It's different from the unearned, tragic, or heroic death Mary Sue seems to get. Since its creation, Mary Sue has been used entirely
Okay, I think we should pause.
Pause.
Right.
Pause.
What do you guys have to say?
Well, she definitely did die before Kylo
And
Ren.
got reborn.
by Kylo Ren. And
Exactly.
He kissed and created fucking Rey.
Yeah.
It literally happened.
Wow. You were right, King. This definitely has aged pretty well.
Wah, wah, wah.
Lol, this is glorious. Oh my. That is something. Well, there you go. This has aged like rotten milk.
Yes.
Okay, if we have anything else to say.
No.
Yeah, let's go on. All right. 7:16, 3, 2,
Okay.
1, go.
Context, and often as a derogatory term. Paula Smith was almost always commenting on the archetype in the realm of fan fiction. Mary Sue's were usually self-insertion stories by very young female writers. It is true that Paula Smith was criticizing the use of the Mary Sue archetype, but she was also sympathetic to what was driving it. In all the intervening years, I've thought about what the Mary Sue might mean psychologically. The conclusion I have come to is that she represents the teenage girl suddenly finding power. It is the power of her sexual attraction. There were a lot of Mary Sues written in the 1970s, and these were from writers who were born in the 1940s and 50s, not quite the time of women's liberation. And suddenly, when a girl becomes mature, people pay attention to her. So, psychologically, it's a stage of development.
This isn't going
in
to turn
young
into a
girls.
feminist remark, is it?
Believe it or not, Smith did not think
I
that this
don't know.
archetype was bad. She simply thought it was a phase most writers go through. It's a character that they want to be, so they write it as a sort of wish fulfillment. But there are Mary Sue archetypes that are written well. So what is, according to Paula Smith, the right way to write a Mary Sue?
Oh.
2 things, she says. First, you have to give the reader somewhere to fit in the character. And second, it can't warp any of the other characters. You can't change the characterization of
the Hunger
known
Games.
characters and make them unrecognizable.
Could be.
This is the wonderful balancing act of any writer.
Okay.
For any writing, you have to have plot, characterization, setting, theme, motif, all of that stuff. And you have to give it life. You have to create a character who is interesting, who is human with recognizable foibles, but who is intelligent enough and heartful enough to be a bit self-aware. It has to be a true hero or heroine that we, the reader, want to be with.
Pause.
For example,
I think we should pause on that. I think we should pause quickly.
Yep.
Okay, she said, okay, apparently that's what a Mary Sue is supposed to be. I think Ray fails at that.
Very hard.
First of all, you have to keep the reader somewhere to fit in the character. Ray's just shoehorned into a sequel trilogies as a means of advancing the plot. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Sorry, Joe. Okay, and
go.
And she also talked about, putting them without warping the other characters beyond recognition. Does that sound familiar?
That's exactly what happened with Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
Jake Alien Milk Drinker.
Jake Alien Milker, I mean.
Yeah, Jake.
And apparently the Mary Sue is supposed to be a power fantasy for the sexual prowess of a woman who's just discovering that or something like that. So do any women feel like that? I think a closest thing to that would be Kathleen Kennedy if Ray was her idea.
Well, I mean, I guess that could be something. I guess in that sense it could be considered. I guess because of every single main male character wanting to bang her in episode 9, like Finn, Poe, and Kylo Ren.
I mean, I don't see why she's not. I personally don't find her all that attractive. I mean, the closest she's ever gotten to being attractive is like doing like the last third of the Last Jedi.
Oh, with the long hair, yeah. And then what's next? Oh, wonderful balancing act of any writer. For any writing, you have to have plot, characterization, setting, theme, motif, all of that stuff, and you have to give it life. You have to create a character who is interesting, who is human with recognizable foibles, but who is intelligent enough and heartful enough to be a bit self-aware.
Well, I guess the writers failed.
Yep, it failed miserably.
I mean, even when they tried to make Ray have to somewhat struggle, she's still not really struggling. Like when she's training in episode 9 with to levitate with the Force and try to communicate with past Jedi, she's floating midair with several rocks gravitating around her.
Yeah. Oh, and also she got no real consequences. Just losing her love, Kylo Ren.
and learning she's descended from basically Space Hitler.
Though even that didn't matter because in the end she just changed her name at the end. I'm no longer Ray Palpatine. I'm now Ray Skywalker.
Which you know.
Oh, that could be an example of, you remember the reward thing?
Yeah.
What was that, Iron?
You remember the lady in the video mentioned the reward thing?
Yeah, that the Mary Sue has to have extraordinary honors.
Well, that's an example of it.
Yeah, she indoctrinated herself as a Skywalker, and technically she's an empress.
That too, because of Palpatine.
Yes, the granddaughter of one of the most hated enemy of the Skywalkers in the whole galaxy is the last remaining person, and has taken their name. What a great win for Darth Sidious.
Yep, indeed. Oh, and the final one. It has to be a true hero or heroine that we, the reader, want to be with. I don't think I want to be with Rey. To be honest.
I don't want to be with any of the sequel trilogy characters, especially since episode 9 showed us what their dynamic is, which most of them involve Rey arguing with Poe.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and also who gets to keep Rey for themselves for banging. I guess that's another one. So there is. And also how much Rey's still figuring out from where she came from, even though that should have been done since The Force Awakens. But okay. So anyway, okay. So should we go to next? I guess.
Yeah, I think we should continue.
We're
Yeah.
gonna met
Iron?
906. So 3, 2, 1, go.
In 1976, Paula Block wrote a series where McCoy fell in love with a character named Sadie. But Paula Smith said that this did not change McCoy's characterization. When contemplating whether or not this character was a Mary Sue, Smith notes, "As a writer, she, Paula Block, gave a lot more than she demanded from the reader. She gave us a character that we could recognize to a certain degree, but did not demand that we fall in love with the character. We could like Sadie or not on our own terms. A story demands headspace, and the Mary Sue wants to come and occupy your whole head, so the writer gets the enjoyment and not the reader. It's a little too much like being used." The main point here that makes Mary Sue...
Stop.
Yeah, let's stop quickly. Okay, so what do you guys have to say about that? What do you guys got to say?
I don't really have much to say on that. You guys?
Iron, since you're the Star Trek guy.
Okay,
Iron?
so
If you need some context, so she basically says at the beginning, as a writer, she gave a lot more than she demanded from the reader. She gave us a character that we could recognize to a certain degree. That's the first thing, and then, but did not demand that we fall in love with the character. We could like Sadie or not on our own terms. And there's story, and the Mary Sue wants to come and occupy.
sorry, your voice would sound like a robot. What'd you say again? The very last thing.
That a story demands headspace, and the Mary Sue wants to come and occupy your whole, so the writer gets the enjoyment and not the reader. It's a little too much like being used. If you ask me, reading this stuff, well, I could definitely say that Rey is one. It seems to me like a character that Disney Star Wars wants us to fall in love with. Not in the term of wanting to, like, like bang her or whatever, but I mean more as in, oh, like this character that we created, like it, please like it. We have tons of merch, for marketing purposes.
Yeah,
also, wasn't
I
there
can see that.
also in episode 9? Also in episode 9, wasn't there like some alien from Pasana that gave Rey some jewelry or something?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, granted, that could be argued because they were celebrating some sort of festival, but that could also be kind of written as they want us to love Rey.
Yeah, that's the case. Yep.
I almost forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then apparently this quote is like, oh, and the Mary Sue wants to come and occupy your whole head, so the writer gets the enjoyment and not the reader. It's a little too much like being used. Well, I mean, I could certainly say I felt used by the sequels, especially when it comes to the movies trying so hard to retcon the previous trilogies, and you just watch the movie and they already took. I guess in some sense you were used by Disney Star Wars. Oh, and also the Rey Defenders also were used, especially pre-Episode 9. When they had all their defense and everything, only for Episode 9 say, nah, screw you. She's not a nobody. She's actually a Palpatine. So that goes out the window. Rey is not going to die. She's not going to be reborn. Oh, sorry, this happened. That sort of feeling of being used.
At least they got their Reylos.
That too.
Oh yeah.
That's another thing. Yep. Indeed. So, oh boy, that is something. So, anyway, should we, I guess, finish this?
All right. Where are you?
I'm at 946.
Okay, nice.
3, 2, 1, go.
Derogatory is that she acts as a black hole in the story. The story revolves around her, warping and changing all other characters to her needs. In the context of the original Mary Sue, she is dropped into the presence of characters that already exist. We know Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. When they meet Mary Sue, they are no longer the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy that we once knew. Compare this to Rey. This is initially her story. When she meets characters that have existed in previous films, she does not change them in any way. They may be different than what we remember them to be, but it isn't because of her existence in the story. When we first meet Rey, we see her work, we see her eat, we see her struggle, fight, and mark the days on her wall to keep track of how long she's been waiting for someone. We see the dead flowers she picked on her table. We watch her pretend she's a resistance fighter. Mary Sue's don't get that sort of treatment. They plop into a story demanding to be loved with minimal development, often lacking in that sort of intimacy that we get out of Rey's intro. At this point, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, well, Rey may not be a Mary Sue, but she shouldn't have been able to learn the Force that quickly, or she didn't get beat up as much as Luke or Anakin did in the past films, or she didn't truly fail and therefore didn't develop as a character. My answers to you are, says who? Why does that bother you? And yeah, she actually did. She failed to bring back Luke, and she failed to turn Ben. She learned more about the Force and about destiny in The Last Jedi. But really,
should we pause this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's pause.
Okay. King, what do you that one?
Okay, it says who, why should she fail? Are you kidding me? Says every good story ever. You need your characters to lose and have flaws so they feel human, and they have to grow and develop to become better people. Humans are not gods. We're not infallible. We are flawed creatures. We struggle, we make mistakes, we fail, we get over them and become better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which, if Rey doesn't do that, we can't relate to her. We can't feel invested in her situation because we know how it's going to end up, and thus we don't care.
Mm-hmm. And that was the definition of how I felt for episode 9. I didn't give a shit of anything that she would do because I knew she would get out of it alive. And when it seemed that she finally died, no, she came back. So there's that. Oh, sorry. You go.
In saying that she failed to
bring Luke back,
convince Luke failed to bring Luke back, he ended up coming back anyway.
Exactly.
Even though it was a forced projection, but still. And Kylo Ren failed to turn him. Episode
she succeeded
9.
In the end.
Yep, episode 9 has something to say about that. So there's that. Boy, this video has definitely aged like rotten milk in areas. Anyway, so let's finish this. We're good.
Wait. 11:20. 3, 2, 1, go.
What we think a character should go through is all incredibly subjective. When people began to use the archetype of Mary Sue to criticize all works and not just those contained in the fanfiction world, the term was forever altered. By the original definition of Mary Sue, canon characters cannot be a Mary Sue because they are not self-insertion, wish-fulfillment characters placed into an already existing universe.
Rey is one, actually.
Didn't catch on because it in itself is flawed. There is apparently an entire community on LiveJournal that exists for the entire purpose of pointing out why certain characters are canon Sues that include criteria such as annoying origin, annoying way of ruining the story, and annoying special abilities. I don't know about you, but that all sounds incredibly subjective to me. Furthermore, just compare Mary Sue to the competent man archetype, coined by science fiction writer Robert A. Heinlein. The competent man is a polymath, skilled at many things, but the audience doesn't have a backstory as to why he is so skilled. He just is. Sherlock Holmes, Indiana Jones, and James Bond are all considered competent men. There are not many outright critiques of this type of stock character. Instead, people have adopted Heinlein's competent hero into an aspiring male figure. In mainstream media, the term Mary Sue has been now accepted as too perfect or good to be true. So what does that mean for those using it? And what does it mean for our female heroines and their critics? Rey is incredibly strong, smart, and all-around competent. On top of that, she has background for why she knows what she knows, why she is as strong as she is, and why she is especially strong in the Force. Why can't we, as women, adopt her as an aspiring female figure?
Okay, I think we know why.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop here.
Yeah, we can stop here.
The video's almost over anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I think part of me wants to say that we better hope that the fandom menace doesn't see this video because we know how they would spin this.
Oh yeah.
Okay. First thing I gotta say, why can't Ray be a role model for competent women? I'll put it simple because everything is handed to her on a silver platter, and she does not really represent how actual real women struggle with life. Because Rage is just like she does it everything like flawlessly. Like she did. The only thing she lost was Kylo Ren, but even then she didn't seem to like, you know. I think she got over it almost immediately after Kylo Ren died. If you ask me, I mean, she managed to build her own lightsaber. She managed to become a Skywalker, and God.
And just on a side note, how fitting is it that it's Rey burying but the Skywalker's lightsabers on Tatooine, you know, the planet that they hate?
That too.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
So you got anything to say, Iron?
You guys pretty much said everything I wanted to say.
I mean, and as for going for like the whole competent man thing, I mean, yeah, James Bond and Indiana Jones are really well skilled, but they're not doing anything outside of what we might expect a competent agent and a competent adventurer would do.
Exactly.
I mean, Ray was just, when we first established her, was a scavenger, and then you later established that she's force sensitive. Okay, fine, but let her develop her force powers reasonably and naturally. But no, you didn't do that. You just gave her everything.
That is
Like
correct.
General said, hand it to her on a silver platter.
Yep. Also, another thing about the Mary Sue gets thrown into universe already established. Yeah, that definitely happened in this one. Rey came out into the sequels. She was never in the original trilogy nor in the prequels, and her existence definitely changed a lot of stuff. I mean, Snoke died for fuck's sake with her freaking presence. So there's that, and Palpatine is dead again, even though he probably will come back.
Yeah, and Palpatine's her grandfather.
That is correct. That is correct.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Rey is the definition of a Mary Sue in Star Wars.
Yeah, no matter how you put it, she is.
Yep.
There's too much evidence.
I mean, no. At this rate, nobody who likes or previously likes Disney can defend Rey.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, that's pretty much everything that.
Yep. I don't really have anything much to say.
Well, I guess that's pretty much it for us.
So there we go. Second time's the charm, I guess.
Yep.
So we will see you guys in the next video.
Okay. Bye bye.